Welcome back to the Strategic Shift. Your two favorite hosts,
Diane Decio.
and Priscilla Scott. Man, I feel like,
A lot has happened in a little bit of time.
yes.
Yes, I believe.
And it's home buying season is upon us. So that has a lot to do with it too. It's a busy time. So for those of you who don't know, summer, the warmer months are generally warmer for real estate too. And so we're really excited today to talk a little bit about that.
Yes, real estate. I mean, we're in Las Vegas. Since I've been here since 2014, and I've bought 2 homes since then, and I must say they both went up. They doubled in price, easily. I was an agent too. And I must say it is the hardest job.
Why do you say it was?
It was because I'm not an agent no more.
Okay.
Yeah, I did let it go to start my business. But it's a rewarding job, but it's also very stressful. And I like buying and selling real estate, but I don't like doing it as an agent. Being an agent is extremely hard. So if you have an agent, go easy on them because it's not easy.
Yes. And I think some of it is the art because there is an art to selling real estate. And in the beginning, I was so incredibly terrible at selling homes that I didn't understand that. I had to shift myself a lot because I was like, oh, I'll just, open the door, show the house, and either they like it or they don't. And then over time, I was taking a CE class, continuing education, that I needed to renew my license. And they were talking about, like, if you send a client like 70 homes, you've already failed.
Oh yeah, 70 homes is a lot. If you're looking at a lot of homes at once, you start getting confused. I don't care.
They start to blend.
Yeah. Yeah. So
See, I look at a house differently. I think that I've gotten really good over the years at gauging what it is that people need. And even if they tell you, like, I'll use this as an example. Years ago, I had someone who was like, I have to have an island in my kitchen.
island, yeah.
And so we would look at all these houses, and it was a husband and a wife. Wife wanted an island. Husband was like, we don't care. I can put in an island.
Mm-hmm.
But like every house that we looked at that was like perfect everywhere else, wife wouldn't necessarily say, oh, it's missing an island, but wife would find everything wrong with the house. And so one day I was just like, this isn't working. Like these homes were like beautiful and perfect. And so I literally sat there going through all the listings, just looking at pictures. Like I wasn't even reading the details, and I'm like, no island, reject, no island, reject, no island, reject, just to check that every house and then that following showing appointment that I had with them, they picked a house.
Oh, yeah,
And she was like, oh, it's okay. And he was like, oh, it doesn't matter. We'll put in an island. But we had gone to look at homes. And even though she didn't say, like, this is a drop dead requirement, you do have to learn. Sometimes people are being modest when they're buying a home, and they don't want to inconvenience their agent or whatever the reason is. And so they start to compromise on some of their requirements.
I've been buying homes since 2000. I bought my first home, and I probably bought like at least 7, I would say. 7 homes, and all of them, every experience has been different so far as the loan, the paperwork you need, and obviously what I was looking for in a home, if it was a rental or if it was a fixer-upper. But when you know what I mean? Like you don't need to talk somebody into buying a home. You don't need to try to sell the home. Like I knew, like, as soon as I seen it, you kind of have a feeling like, okay, this is it. But they all, once you get into the home, unless it's a new build, you're making it to where it fits for you. It's going to be work, you got to be able to look at it and not be so attached to it because, like I said, you don't know how long you're going to live in it. You could live in it for a couple years. So, but every home has potential. I mean, I've seen some really nice remodels where the house was ugly and old on the outside and they made it a beautiful home.
What does home ownership mean to you?
What is to me, why it's been so important to me is I grew up in apartments because my father was in the apartment business and he was able to take care of us as a single father. So we never had that place where it just felt like, okay, this is ours. Nobody can kick us out. Like it's almost like a stability to me, stability. Um, and just, being a renter, I've been a renter. I've lived, um, in short term, long term, and just having a home, I feel like not only does it give you stability, but it's like an account. You're saving money. People think like, oh, I'm spending this money, but in reality, you're really investing it. To me, it's stability, investment, and also you could pass it on to your next generation.
Yeah. So, I've mentioned before, I'm from Costa Rica, and it's interesting the American system versus everywhere else because in the American system, most people buy their homes with a mortgage. And in Latin American countries, having a mortgage is actually like negative, like you had to borrow against your property. And what did you need the money for? Like I grew up when we were in a very like small, like low income, high crime. We were in the hood and this tiny house, but we owned it.
Mm.
Nobody, like it was ours, and then it moved, right? My grandparents initially lived there, and then my aunts and my mom grew up there, and then my sisters and then my aunt inherited it later on down the road and started her family. So we're creatures of habit. Like my family, I had a different experience growing up. Even once we moved to the US, we didn't move until way later in life when the economy and the market started to get hot. Then my parents bought a different house, but we were creatures of habit. We've lived in the same home just about
Awesome.
all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So stability,
Yes,
I agree with you.
yeah. Okay, so the process of buying home, let's talk about the process. It changes consistently. I mean, when I was in real estate, you have to take your continuing education. They're constantly changing laws. They're constantly changing the loans. I mean, it's a stressful, investment to get into. I mean, like having a lot of people give up, a lot of people don't think they could do it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that a lot of people underestimate the ability to buy a home?
So a few things. One, the way that things operate haven't really changed much from when you had your license. Like you still need continuing education, you still need your licensing, you still need to work under a broker. The products in the market fluctuate day to day. And by products, I mean the loan products out there. Just mainly, they're always looking for a new way to be able to help more people, right? We have majority of people use FHA backed loans.
No, explain FHA. What is the process of it? Like, what do they need for FHA?
So generally the difference between FHA loans and conventional loans is the amount of money that you're going to need. With FHA, you can get into a property with a lesser down payment, and then you pay what's the MI?
Yeah, what is the lesser down payment, like a 10? What is it? 20?
3.5%.
3.5%.
Yeah.
So
7.5%, and then those loans are backed by the Federal Housing Authority, and then which that's what people talk about, like Freddie and Fannie. And then you've got conventional loans, which traditionally it's 20% down, but people with higher credit can get in 5 or 10% down on some of those. And then I've worked with some lenders. I had this client, and results not typical, right? But I had a client. I absolutely love these two. They're twin sisters, super young, and they bought a townhouse. And then the lender that they used allowed them to go in no money down. And the money that they had saved, they were able to use it to purchase a lower interest rate. They were able to buy points. And so
how did they get it no money down?
It was offered through this specific bank.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then they used their money to buy down the interest rate. So, and this was when the interest rate was right around like 5. They got in at like 2%.
Oh, that's awesome.
And to see them so young, like they're in the healthcare industry, like I just think so highly of them. And I tell everybody that story. And I've helped like their mom and their sister, and they've all been able to take advantage of this really good loan program.
Now, out here, the rent prices are pretty expensive. I mean, I would say for like an apartment, 1 bedroom, I mean, you're paying, I've heard 1,500 to 2,000 even. I mean, for apartments.
And they're going up everywhere.
Yeah, they really are. And they ask for like crazy things. Some of them ask for your background check, a credit check, a job check. I mean, it's a lot. Deposit, first and last month's rent. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Most of the consumers feel like you do, where they think like it's kind of crazy, but I kind of think it's warranted because it's a risk, right? You're letting somebody live in a space that you own.
Right.
You want to know what type of person and what type of risk you're taking in. Like, are they going to put holes in the wall? Like, as a landlord too, you have to think like, are they going to pay rent?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But my thing is like, for the same price they are paying to live in these apartments, I mean, they pretty much can get like a cheaper place, because I've seen even some like the manufactured homes, they go for like 60,000. You know, you figure out like that's about the same price you can get into a manufactured home for the same price of getting into an expensive rental apartment, you know?
And sometimes it's a lack of awareness.
Yes.
Because I think, and a lack of discipline. So the two kind of can feed off of each other, right? Because one, on the awareness side, some people that I've met that are renting, I'm like, and they're good at saving money. And for whatever fears they might have, they say that they don't qualify.
Yeah, fear. Yeah.
And I'm like, you might have to button up a thing here or there, but generally if they're responsible, they can save a little bit of money towards a down payment. It's easy for them to get into something. And also our market has been so volatile over the last, 15 years that it has created some of that fear. Like when I first started working in real estate, the market had just crashed and was starting to pick back up. So we would go look at a house and there would be like 15 offers.
Wow.
On a single home.
Yeah.
So obviously people are like, I'm not the strongest buyer. I'm just going to wait. Right. And then they waited.
They give up.
And then maybe the market's a little bit higher. And they're like, no, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Because they want the house that they saw when prices were maybe 30% lower, and their money can't get them that now.
Also, I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm going to wait for the interest rate to go down. Keep waiting. Yeah. Like they think of any excuse on why not to buy a home and to pay all this money towards rent, which is something you will never get back. Like as in a home, yes, you're paying a mortgage, a monthly payment, but you're getting all that back.
Here's the reality. There's fluctuations in the market. There's fluctuations in the amount of money that we make. There's never a perfect time.
Never. You just sometimes if you see it and you have the opportunity, I think you should take it for sure.
And the people that are like just lingering, waiting for the interest rate to come down, it might not.
Right.
And then you look at it and you're like, man, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
As the rents continue to go up, as prices of living continue to go up, you're waiting for interest rates to go down. But so here's the thing, like if somebody didn't have any money, really wanted to be a homeowner and had bad credit, could they be a homeowner? Like, what is the probability of them getting into a home?
Absolutely. It takes discipline though. Like they have to be willing to like buckle down and work on the things that are on their credit. And they can do that through like credit repair specialists. I've worked with some that are great. Shout out to Supreme Score Solutions.
Yes, we actually have a credit company that we work with. Or actually that we work with. Supreme Score Credit Repair. Yeah, Solutions. Excuse me. Supreme Score Solutions. Yeah.
Yes, and they do a great job, but you know, sometimes it takes hiring somebody like them to help people improve their credit. Sometimes it's something simple, right? Like pay your bills on time.
Yes.
And
What would you say like they need, what kind of credit score to get into a home?
it depends. I've seen some loan products as low as 600. I've seen some 620. There's non-traditional lenders too that might have and these are not as common, but you might have like a pocket loan where a lender, for whatever reason, is willing to assume the risk. They can't sell it in the open market, so they keep it. And then that lender becomes a servicer as well.
Yeah. I've also heard of like rent to own.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that one?
Yeah, so rent to own is generally the way that I've seen it structured. There's a few different ways, but the way that I've seen it structured is, let's say you own a home and you're willing to sell it. So I'm your incoming tenant. I come in and let's say the property market value is 1,500. I give you 2,000 a month for a predetermined amount of time. That extra $500 you put aside towards a down payment, you as the landlord. And then at the end of the term, I, tenant, look for financing options that are going to go along with it.
So I have a question, but there is two different kinds. Like there's one where when you get into that rent to own agreement, that you, as the house goes up, that you will have to pay that price at the end. Like when you finally get your stuff together, the house is worth more than what you agreed, when you first agreed. Or if you put into the contract, I'm going to buy it at this fair market value right now, but I've got 2 to 3 years to get my stuff together.
So you said the magic word.
Yeah.
It's in your contract.
Yes.
And so you do have to have a bona fide contract.
Yes.
And then the other part of it, so there's also an owner will carry, where you, owner, have a property and maybe for whatever reason, maybe it paid off, maybe you got a very low payment, whatever that looks like, right? You sell it to me. I am the deeded owner of it, but you are my service. So I make the loan payment.
Yeah, I'm the bank.
And usually those are also stipulated. Those are usually like short-term loans, like 5 years, 6 years I've seen. And at the end of that time, same scenario, you refinance it. But in that scenario, I am the deeded owner.
No, and what is the interest rate on something like that with an owner?
That
gets up to the owner.
Yeah, that's up to the owner. I've seen traditionally it's comparable, it's comparable, but sometimes it's a little bit easier for somebody who may not be able to directly enter into a traditional loan.
Yes. So there is a way, you know what I mean? A rent to own I actually purchased one of my houses as a rent to own. At that time, I had a lot of debt to ratio, so I could not get approved for the loan because I believe I had two very luxury cars. And then once I got rid of one of the cars, my credit was up and my debt to ratio, it was low, and I was able to go for the loan. At that time, the landlord or the realtor, he was the realtor and the landlord, he was shocked. He was like, well, why do you want to go for the loan now? I'm like, what do you mean? That's what I got into the contract for. I didn't wait the full year. Like, I literally got into the contract because I actually signed the contract. So as the house went up,
Oh,
I would have to get a higher loan. So I immediately, after I sold the car, I went for the loan before the price like shot up. And he made it really hard, because he wanted me to wait that 2 years, and I was able to get the house for a good deal. But it got me in the house. It was at a time when I wasn't able to get a loan to get in the house, but I knew I didn't want to pay rent. I knew I wanted to buy a home, but I just wasn't able to at that time. So I did do the rent to own, and it actually worked out great. Besides the landlord realtor being difficult, I made a lot of money off that home. So it does work. There is a way. So if you really want to be a homeowner, it is figuring it out, and like you said, being diligent, you know?
yeah. And you have to have the discipline. You have to determine, like, is this really what I want to do? And again, you have to pay for somewhere to live.
Right. Exactly. So, but the thing about being a homeowner, you're not paying for that. You're literally investing that.
Now, I will say this. If you get your calculators out, right? Mortgages are tricky because when you think about the amount of interest, regardless whether you're paying 5% or 6% or 7%, um, if you pay that life of the loan, you're really paying like 3-4 times what that property cost
Mm.
because of the compounded interest over time. So when you are looking for something like that, you can buy a house at 6% when the rates come down, refinance it. But I always tell people there's things that you can naturally do that are going to lower the amount that you pay over the life of the loan. One is I'm a huge proponent of biweekly payments. You take the exact same amount of money that let's say your mortgage is $2,000. You split it into 1,000 and 1,000. You pay every 2 weeks instead of once a month.
Wow.
Because interest is compounded daily. So when you do it that way, you can cut out, without spending a single extra dime, you can cut out 8 years on your loan.
Wow. See, I didn't know that.
So the biweekly payments make a huge difference.
Really? I had no idea.
Huge difference. And most lenders, there's a couple of lenders that won't that don't allow it, obviously.
Oh, really?
But there's quite a few lenders that will set it up for you that way after you've closed the loan and now you're making payments. So that drastically reduces. Or let's say when you look at the comparison of a 15-year loan versus a 30-year loan, maybe that 15-year loan is a few $100s more, but it cuts out 15 years. And as you do the biweekly on top of it, you could have that loan paid off really quick.
See, yeah, that's really good to know. I did not know about the biweekly. But and I do know about the 15, but also just even making a couple extra $100 on top of the payment too.
Well, and for me, like, for years, most people, not everybody, but most people get paid bi-weekly.
Right.
So that's how I budgeted my spending, right? Bi-weekly. So every check, I knew this much is going to my mortgage, this much is going to my utilities, this much. And I just budgeted my life bi-weekly. And it just made it a little bit easier for planning because sometimes people aren't so disciplined.
Yeah.
And so they're like living paycheck to paycheck. When they could just make tweaks, right, to have a little bit more breathing room and be able to save a little bit of money.
Now, I've heard of is it DSCR loan?
That's an investment.
So that one is a very interesting loan about, so for people that are like business owners that don't have the paychecks or, because they ask for 2 years you know, of work, you know what I mean? 2 years of taxes. But the DSCR loan, you can use that as some of your income, right?
So what it allows you to do is if you're going into an investment property, let's say you're going to be renting it out, they allow you to use your projected income from that property to qualify for the loan versus going off of like your personal history.
And I think that one's awesome if you're actually trying to be in a, get your house, your first house as an investment. Because I always tell people, like, your first house, it should be, do not get attached to it. Like, that should be like kind of like something where it's a starter house. You get into it, you move in it, you live in it, you fix it up. And as the value goes up and you are, basically have been in it, you got it to where you want and you're kind of grow out of it, but you can basically take that and use it as a down payment pull money out and use that as a down payment for another home.
And sometimes people get attached like in life, and this is for everybody, right? Not just in real estate. We get attached to material.
Yes.
And so sometimes people get attached to a home.
Right.
Because, you had your child there, or maybe it was your first home and you didn't think you were going to be able to buy a property, or maybe, it has memories, it holds some of that, instead of just looking at it as a structure that is really an investment tool.
Exactly, investment.
And I mean, people get attached to cars for some of the same reasons. There's a lot that and they do themselves a disservice, because you're right, like, it's rare, not impossible, but it's rare that somebody buys a house, lives in that house their entire life,
Right.
and never lives anywhere else. It's rare.
Right. I mean, like, when they get older and they want to find a house to retire in and die in, yes, I could totally understand that. But like somebody who's a first home buyer, who wants to just get into real estate, you should definitely look at it like, a stepping stone. You get in it, it's your first investment, fix it up. As it grows, you can get something bigger, or you could pull the money out and get another I mean, there's a lot of ways.
And honestly, if I could go back, that is exactly what I would do. I wasted so much money in my college years. So much money. And I would just, even buying a simple condo or something cheap, that you can call your own. And then over time, it gains a little bit of equity. You sell it, you buy something else, like that gains a little bit of equity, and you just start to build from it.
Right.
I didn't buy my first home until I was like 30.
That's still a good age.
And
I know people my age have never owned a home. Like,
yeah, that was just.
Some people don't even want to buy a home. I've talked to some people, they're like, I don't want to buy a home because I don't want to do the maintenance. It's a lot of work, and I'd rather just move into an apartment and everything is taken care of. So some people just don't want to be home buyers, but even so, like, if you have kids, or, you have money sitting around, why not make that money grow by investing in a very hot commodity, which is real estate?
So I do know of a few people that are like that. And what I say to them is one of two things. You can buy a property that's maybe like in a condo hotel format, and rent it out.
Yes.
So that now you are the landlord, you're making money, and you put it, or even if you put it in you buy a traditional home and you put it with a property manager, right?
Yeah.
Then they handle the tedious things that you don't want to, but at least you're still building your investment.
Exactly.
Or you move into a property and you pay somebody else to do all those tedious management maintenance things for you.
You're going to pay for it some way or another.
You are.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to fear, right? Like, I don't want to be bothered with a broken water heater, or I don't want to get bothered with a garage door that went out, but you're going to be bothered with it anyway.
Right. Exactly.
And there's tools in place. You can get a home warranty. There's licensed handymen out there that you can get a contract with. Like, there's so many things that you can do so that you don't have to be bothered. Convenience and sacrifice. You can either afford to pay for convenience, or you sacrifice somewhere in life.
Exactly. So I have one more. So one other loan that actually kind of piqued my interest was the is it USDA?
Mhm.
The USDA loan. Like for people that don't have the money up front, or there's grants, and there's actually loans for some type of for this type of property.
So USDA loans are predominantly in rural areas.
Yes.
They're not in like heavily populated areas, and it's 100% loan. It does have some lower costs and some benefits. So if someone doesn't have to be like right in the heart of the city, that is a really good option.
Yes. 100% financing.
Mhm.
So they don't have to come down with nothing.
Correct.
Now, and then also, if they wanted that land to actually make money because it's in a rural area, it could be like where you could actually grow.
A farming.
Yeah, like a farming community. There's a lot of grants that will give you money to grow food, right?
Yes.
So if you don't want to live in the city, if you can't afford the city, there are other options. You might be in a little bit smaller area, but
There's people who love that.
yeah. Yeah.
I have a friend who has a farm just outside of Chicago, and she's the most spiritual, free soul on the planet. And she lives off the earth. She grows her food. Her and her husband, they're in a farming community.
That's awesome.
So, and she is literally living her best life.
Yeah. And healthy, probably healthy. You know what I mean? When it comes.
Yeah.
See, and I sometimes I'm like, I would love to be on a farm, but then I'm like, I'm a city girl. But then I'm like, but dang, it'd be nice to be healthy and, cook your own vegetables and make your own fruit. And yeah.
I need a combination.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I like both. I'm like on the cusp. I would like a place where I can drive to the city, but then I can still grow my own food and eat healthy.
Now I'm all for like fresh homegrown food, but I don't know if I'm the one.
Really? You all got a green thumb?
No.
Yeah, see,
Well, I did in my last house. I planted, my mom actually pointed this out like 2 days ago. I planted lime trees because I put lime on everything.
yeah.
And then lemon trees and orange trees.
And they grew.
They did, but we sold that out. So somebody else has my limes, my lemons, and my oranges. And so my mom was like, and those trees, if you get them when they're babies, it takes a few years for them to. But mine were already, and mine were already producing. And my mom, the other day, we were at the grocery store, and she's like, "Well, I guess the days of picking these off the tree." And I'm like, "Okay, mom, thanks."
Yeah, see, that's definitely a dream of mine, is to have to be able to grow my own food, for sure, because of just all the chemicals and everything in this food. It's hard. It's very expensive to eat good and just get good food.
So I will say that there's a lot. It's interesting because it depends on where you are. Like obviously in the United States, we consume, and especially in the desert, we consume a lot of things that are brought in, so it's not as fresh. But when when we go to Costa Rica, that's always the big thing. And right next to our condo, I'll tell this story. There's this cute little farm. And I was always like, oh my gosh. And I was telling my brother, like, let's go take the kids. It's like, this is so cute. And then they have this cute restaurant, and we ate at the restaurant afterwards. Food was amazing.
Ugh, I bet.
And then my brother educated me on this beautiful farm to table.
What do you mean?
So all the animals that we see eventually go to the date.
Oh,
and I didn't know that. And so I'm like all excited. And in Costa Rica, you still get the guy who's walking up and down the street selling you like fresh chicken egg.
Right.
And all the things. And you still get like homemade ice cream from the lady on the corner. But that day, like my heart just broke whenever when he explained farm to table. And
oh yeah.
what? Like, you mean they kill these animals? So it took on a different meaning, but we eat there all the time.
Yes, I definitely cannot wait to go to Costa Rica.
And I'll take you there.
Girl, Panama, Costa Rica, we're going
to play with everything.
Yes.
Everything, all the animals.
That's awesome.
They did recently add these little bunny rabbits that are like more for the kids to play because they get a lot of visitors and stuff. But yeah.
Well, so now with the credit, so again, let's just recap, if somebody wanted to buy a home and they didn't have the finances, they didn't have the credit, they don't have any idea of buying a home, what advice would you give them? Like, but they know they want to buy a home.
So this is what I would say. Start with a realtor because they're going to guide you to a mortgage professional. They're going to guide you to someone who can fix your credit. They're going to jump through the hoops with you. And please, please, please do not ditch them halfway through the process.
Oh, I've had that happen, by the way. Mine was like 2 years of helping this woman get her stuff together. And then she turned around, and right when everything was ready to go, she was like, I don't want to buy in Vegas anymore. I'm going to Chicago. I was like, oh man, it hurts. It hurts. But
yeah.
Okay.
So as I'll say, because a realtor is going to, and again, one, you're not going to go to the grocery store to buy food with no money in your pocket, right? A house is no different. You cannot go looking for homes until you have done the work to say, yes, I am pre-approved. Yes, I have the money to close in the bank. So start with a realtor. They're going to walk you through everything that needs to be done. They've got contacts in the industry, people that have a tried and true record. You know, they can really help. Because if you just are the looky-loos who go into every single open house and you have
like, you're gonna have this house forever, right? So I'm gonna say this, don't give up. If that is your dream to buy a home and it seems like it's a lot and it's overwhelming and you don't have the credit and you don't have the money and you don't have this, don't give up. Just at least, you know, put your feet out there. Like, I mean, put yourself out there to actually start the process. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, but if you don't start, then how are you ever going to get there? Right? Don't let that,
don't get
discouraged. Yeah. Don't get discouraged. Don't let that whole process scare you from, you know, having a home,
and work with a professional because they're going to jump through the hoops with you.
Right.
Be honest. Say, you know what? I have terrible credit or I don't have the funds to close. Whatever that looks like, they're going to navigate all of those challenges with you because they work on commission, okay? Mm-hmm. So they want to get you to the finish line too.
Exactly.
And I have clients that I have jumped through buying and selling for years. You know, I've been in business now for almost 15 years.
15 years.
And so there's some people that bought their first home and then upgraded and all of that. Like, they're not just clients. Like, I know their kids, I know their families, their spouses. Like, I care about their lives now. And so I say, find a realtor that you can vibe and connect with because that's important.
Yeah. Besides your kids, it's your biggest investment. So it is definitely important to have somebody that knows what they're doing. So you're not just running around wasting your time. And also your information will be in the bio. So if you're interested in buying real estate in Las Vegas, which is a very wonderful economy, I don't care what anybody says, this economy has grown so much and is continued to growing. And like, literally, it's amazing on all the things that are being built right now, you know, so far as things to do, opportunities. Las Vegas it's a place to be. Yes, a 24/7, 7-day. I mean, it don't stop. So if you're looking to invest in a good economy, I just say it's a good economy. You know, you hear things like, oh, it's not, but what I see, it's a very good economy. Like, this is a place to invest. Your investment will be really, really safe, a really safe investment in Las Vegas.
I love Vegas. You can raise a family here, or you can go have the time of your life, take a break.
You can do a staycation, be on vacation in your city. I mean, there's so many. I really, out of all the places, and I've lived in a lot of places, I really do love Vegas. I do. Yeah, I'm glad I moved here.
I'm glad you moved too.
But yeah, so your information will be in the bio. So do not be scared if you never buy a home or an investment. The only way you're going to find out is if you actually do it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I am Priscilla Scott. That's all the time we have for today.
And I'm Diane Decio. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the comments and all the follows, and just, you know, just continue. If you have questions, we would love to answer them.
Yes.